Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and this is a Dungeons & Dragons background story for a character I'm playing in an upcoming campaign, and it is specifically for a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game. And so my character is a Tiefling Paladin with a Guild Artisan background, and his Guild Artisan background is stained glass. And this is a story of how he continued to adventure with another player character, played by Michael Ravinsky. And he is playing specifically a character who is a Dragonborn Paladin with a Guild Artisan background for Alchemist. And that character's name is Raken Blindburn. And so specifically, let me go ahead and jump into this. And so basically, Raken Blindburn is he's essentially at this point he was a 6th level paladin, and he serves Torm, and so at that point he actually goes to Ionovik Bluff, and he's going there specifically to visit the grave of a fallen comrade. And so he goes there and he meets another paladin who goes by the name of Raken. And Raken is a human paladin who serves the same god that the same deity that Raken Blindburn serves, and that is Torm, who is a god of war. Right. So Raken, his background was a soldier. So he was a soldier who became a paladin. He's serving Torm, same as Raken Blindburn. So they go to so the two of them meet at Ionovik Bluff, and and essentially Raken is 6 levels higher. He's a 12th level paladin, and he's 6 level higher than Raken Blindburn. So what happens is when he goes there, Raken is shocked. He says, "Hey, Raken, what's going on?" And they've known each other for a while. Actually, Raken has done much of the training that Raken has received. And so Raken is surprised. He says, Raken, you don't have your armor and you don't have your sword, right? So he doesn't have his plate armor and he doesn't have his sword. He's wearing simple breeches and just a white cloth shirt, right? And he says, you're not even armed. What's going on? And he says, listen, I have found a new way, right? And so Raken explains to Raken that he has found a new way, and he says, Raken says, I have had a waking dream, and what it's told me is I have a new understanding of my relationship with Torm. So I still retain power from Torm, but I don't really need to serve Torm anymore. And by simply laying down my weapons and going into a defensive stance of life rather than an offensive stance of life, I am continuing to be quite powerful. And so Raken just kind of laughs at him, and he says, well, you're not very powerful without a sword and your plate armor. And immediately Raken attacks him. And before he can even draw his sword, he pulls his sword away from him, throws it over the bluff, right, and easily trips him and knocks him down, and says, how powerful am I now, right? And so he easily defeats him, just kind of, bum rushes him. And, and Raken's eyes go big, and he's quite alarmed. And he's saying, what are you saying? Don't you serve Torm anymore? And he goes, there's no need to serve Torm. The power is within me myself. And so from a mechanical perspective, what's happened is Raken is transitioning from being a paladin to a monk. But he's also an Oathbreaker. He took an oath to always raise his sword in defense and in offense of all of the concepts of Torm, right? So he is an Oathbreaker, which is a mechanical aspect for paladins, right? So Raken is quite alarmed at this, right? So what he does is immediately leaves, and he goes to talk about this with some of the other paladins in the area. Well, he realizes that Raken has converted 4 of the paladins within 30 miles of where they're at. And Raken is quite alarmed. And he's like, oh no, this is terrible, right? So he immediately goes to find Raken, and when he begins to search for Raken, he finds that Raken is going to go to the city of Leparsk. And Leparsk is where there's a temple of Torm, right? Well, Raken has already converted 4 major paladins of Torm within the 30-mile area. And Raken is incredibly alarmed at how powerful Rayquash has become and how persuasive he is. And he says, this has got to stop. So this is an Oathbreaker who has created more Oathbreakers. And there's no way he's going to let him go to the temple. Well, Rayquash is 6 levels higher than Raken, right? So Raken knows that he can't defeat him, right? And this is after he's retrieved his sword. Raken's retrieved his sword. So what he does is he goes to his buddy, Shard. So him and Shard had fought together, and they had actually saved a town together and held a gate, and actually fought very, very hard at Peristrine together. And they had saved a 50,000 silver payment that went rightfully to the shipwrights, right? So they have history together. So Raken goes immediately to Shard, Gale Raven, who is my tiefling paladin, and he says, "Hey, I have an Oathbreaker." Well, at Shard, he does not worship the deity Torm. He worships the deity Lyra, right? Who's the deity of joy, right? And so one of the things that he says is that, he says, well, that's bad, but I don't serve Torm. He goes, but you're a paladin, so you understand what an Oathbreaker means. And he says, if somebody broke, if you were in this situation and people were converting paladins of Lyra back, to break their oaths, would you do something about it? And he says, yeah, I would. And so hesitantly, Shard aids Raken. So they go and they search out, they track him down, and they find Rayquash at the Blue Ren Valley, and he is traveling alone. And what happens is the two of them strike him together immediately, and so Shard and Raken attack him. He is unarmed, and they fight him, and he bloodies both of them, takes them both below their half of their hit points. Uses startling monk moves and nearly kills Shard, but actually they're both paladins, so they certainly can be healed. They can heal each other, but they cut him down together, and so they kill Rayquash, and they bury him in a location that was not Blue Ren Valley. And the only people who know that Rayquash was killed by Shard and Raken are Shard and Raken. And they are also the only ones who know the location of Rayquash's body. So they share this secret together. And so that is the story of when Shard and Raken pursued Rayquash, the Oathbreaker, and killed him in the Blue Ren Valley, cut him down together. And that is the story of their second adventures together.